What's up, everybody? We are 9 days away from the update to Modern Warfare 3 Warzone, which is going to give us the better movement and mobility, the better visual recoil, as well as less visual clutter while you're shooting. And then, of course, that means also we're getting all the MWIII weapons and the attachments as well. And so, as usual, when a new Call of Duty game comes in, we usually expect the new game to take over the meta. Obviously, you can see I grinded. I went all the way to Interstellar, but most people don't have time to just grind, and they just want to focus on what weapons they think are going to be good in Warzone. And I got 10 weapons that I think are going to be good, plus 2 extra bonus weapons that aren't as important to level up, but something that I would think would impact the Warzone meta. So we're going to run through the 10 plus their attachments and the bonus 2 plus their loadouts as well. Let's go ahead and deep dive into these 10 weapons that I think you should be leveling up for Warzone, for the Warzone update starting December 6th. Okay, starting off with number 10, we have the longbow sniper, and if you've used it in multiplayer, you know that it doesn't feel very good unless you're quick scoping around small maps. But speaking of quick scoping around small maps, if you remember back to Warzone 1, we did actually have the car. Okay, so starting at number 10, we have the longbow sniper rifle, which if you've used it around multiplayer, it doesn't feel very good unless you're quick scoping around small maps, which is exactly the role I think it's going to fill in Warzone, especially once we get Rebirth Island back and Fortune's Keep, where if you remember back to Warzone 1 when we had those maps, the car was the quick scope meta and it was the quick scoper's choice. And this is going to feel very similar to the car, I think, even around Vondel and Ashika Island as well, which of course we're keeping and we'll have December 6th. And this is so similar to the car that even the reticle is the same on the default site like it was on the car. And so we're going to start off with the muzzle here. We have the sonic suppressor, which gives you added bullet velocity and range. We're not really worried too much about the recoil control and aim walking steadiness, and the sprint to fire speed negative will negate shortly. And if you don't want any negatives, you can go the Shadow Strike Suppressor, which will leave you undetectable because we are getting the classic style minimap back in Warzone with this new update. But because what they did to the car, the SPR, and the other light snipers and marksman rifles that could one-shot, they reduced the range. All were between 70 and 75 and less. Some of them were in the 60s. And I think the longbow is going to end up getting the same treatment when we get one-shot snipers back like we supposedly are. And so I wanted to add the bullet velocity and the damage range through the suppressor. Then we're going to move on to underbarrel, where we have the XRK Edge BW4 hand stop. And if you go ahead and go filter and you go mobility and handling, which is what we're worried about with quick scoping, you're left with 3 options. When we look at the details here, you can see the XRK Edge BW4 hand stop and the DR6 hand stop both give you similar benefits and similar negatives, just different values. Whereas the X10 TX12 hand stop doesn't do anything for mobility, just handling, and it doesn't even win out in handling. It's the same as the hand stop, as the BW4 hand stop, and less than the DR6 hand stop. So then we're left with the 2 hand stops, and if you look at the mobility, movement speed is a 7.3% benefit, and crouch movement speed is a 10.8% benefit, where the ADS move speed is a 14.1% benefit. All higher numbers than the DR6 hand stop, where that DR6 hand stop wins is ADS speed 4.3 versus 3%, and sprint to fire speed 11.7 to negative 0.8%. So both of these are viable options, but I like to have the overall movement speed extra benefits in exchange for slightly less handling benefits. So that's why we end up with the XRK Edge BW4 hand stop, which is actually going to be a common hand stop through some of these loadouts. Then we go with the FSS OLEV laser. This is essentially your TAC laser from Warzone 1. It gives you aim stability, aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed. So now we've already adjusted the sprint to fire speed from the muzzle twice now. So we're going to leave this. Barrel is going to stay as it is because the barrels add damage range and bullet velocity, but they take away ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. And then this one hurts velocity and range, and this also hurts velocity and range. The one that helps velocity and range does help a lot, but we're going to focus on the mobility a little bit more here. Now, this is an option to throw on instead of the hand stop. Those would be the 2 exchanges. I think otherwise you have to leave everything the same. Or you could get rid of the rear grip. You could throw a barrel on, you could do other things, but we're focused purely on making this a movement quick scope build. So then you have the no stock option, which is going to give you huge mobility and handling benefits. It does hurt your flinch resistance some, but we're quick scoping, not hard scoping, so we're not worried. And same thing with recoil. We're quick scoping. We're not hard scoping on automatic fire or even fast tap fire. So that's really the option. Another option here is the bolt here for rechambering speed. The rechambering speed does increase your rate of fire by 11.3%. But in a quick scope fight, you don't really have time to miss and rechamber. So we're going to ignore the rechamber speed. But there's another option you could do. If you were going to change this loadout, I would remove the hand stop and the grip for the bolt and the barrel is the only other changes I would make to this loadout. And then, of course, speaking of the rear grip, sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. The other option here, of course, is to go with the flinch resistance, but it really hurts your aim down sight speed, and since we're hard scoping, flinch resistance is not a big deal. So that's the first weapon that I think you should have. That's the longbow sniper rifle. Number 9, we're looking at the Striker 9, one of 2 strikers. One's got to be meta, at least, right? Or in the meta. And once again, you see the sonic suppressor here, helps bullet velocity and damage range, while only hurting sprint to fire speed. Once again, go Shadow Strike if you want no negatives, but I'm a fan of the Sonic S suppressor, and everything else, the benefits start to not be super great without giving us enough of a benefit. Barrels, we have the Striker Elite Long Barrel. It gives you bullet velocity and range as well as recoil control, whereas this Striker Recon Long Barrel helps with bullet velocity and range, but doesn't help with recoil control, so we're going to go ahead and stick with this barrel here. When you look at the stats, the ranges are significantly higher, but the bullet velocity is actually less, and the bullet velocity is a little more important if you get stuck where you have to use outside of its range. So your bullets can hit with AR bullet velocity. Then we have this integrated optic here. This is an aftermarket part that you have to unlock during with armory unlocks. Of course, you can go no optic here, and then I would switch to a laser. It would give you the FSOLEV laser. Actually, on this gun, it's the VOK laser 7 milliwatt, but it's the same laser. It helps sprint to fire speed, ADS speed, all that. 50-round drum, and one of the reasons I'm not concerned with the laser is we negate the benefits we're losing by not using that laser over the optic. For sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed, we go with the no stock here, which helps greatly both in the mobility and the handling range. It does hurt your recoil a lot, but this is an up-close gun. Of course, you could get rid of the no stock and throw on an under barrel. You could throw on one of the rear grips like the Seiken, but this isn't a super... I mean, this is up close. Recoil's nothing. Of course, at range, it's a little bit difficult. At mid-range, it can be a little bit difficult, but we're building this because it's the lower caliber. We're building this for up close, and you see up close, it's nothing, right? So we're not super worried about long range. Up close, it's just not enough to worry about. And we'll go on the firing range one more time. It's pretty snappy. Pretty snappy. Sprint to fire is not bad. And you get an optic, which, you know, personally, I don't like iron sights, but I sacrifice a lot on SMGs for iron sights. But you get one with a built-in laser that helps both aim down sight speed and hip fire spread. So I think it's worth it. So that's number 9. Number 8 here, we are looking at the Bruin. The main reason I think this Bruin's going to end up being meta, honestly, is because it was meta in Warzone 1. And I think for the nostalgia factor, it's going to end up being meta. Whether it's right away or at some point, it will be meta. And so we look at the suppressor here. We look at the VT7 Spitfire suppressor. Now, once again, you want no negatives. Go Shadow Strike, but you're getting no positives other than keeping off of minimap. We go with the VT7 Spitfire suppressor because when you look at recoil control, damage, and range, the only one. You're going to see this on all these long-range builds going forward in this video. The VT7 Spitfire, it's the only one that gives you recoil control, bullet velocity, damage range, and keeps you off the map. It's got to be the suppressor of choice, right? So that's the suppressor we end up with. Then we look at barrels. We have the 23-inch XRK Horizon V2 barrel. Because when you, once again, if you want to filter and you go recoil control, damage, and range, you're left with one barrel. And that's really what you want out of your muzzle and your barrel, is to get bullet velocity, recoil control, and damage range. I don't know why it says it helps on range. It doesn't actually list as a benefit, but that's COD for you. And then you just look at the other ones. Bullet velocity and range. It doesn't give you recoil control, and nothing else gives you bullet velocity and range. So then we have the Bruin Heavy Support Grip. This is going to be the grip that you're going to be seeing going forward on these. When you look at the advanced stats here, and you can see the horizontal recoil control, which is what we're worried about. Vertical, you just pull down. Horizontal, -12, +4, +2.8, +2.8, nothing, nothing, +4. See, -9, -9, -9, -9, -4.5, -9, -4.5, nothing. Nothing, nothing, 4.5, 4.5, 6.3, nothing, nothing, and all the bipods, nothing. So, yes, it does hurt your vertical recoil control. Took it off. Yes, it does help your hurt your vertical recoil control, but that's what we're able to control the most easily. It helps your horizontal recoil control the most. Once again, you're looking at -12%, and the recoil gun kick is -14.5. Not bad, and it doesn't hurt your ADS necessarily more than any of the other ones. And then we go 60 round mag. Of course, you could go the 200 belt. But that's just ridiculous, and you just don't need that ammo. We're looking to improve that ADS speed, the sprint to fire speed, the movement speed, and the reload quickness. 60 round mag does that, and 60 round mag's plenty. And then, of course, optic is your choice. I think the Schlager 3.4 is going to be my optic going forward. And when you look at it, there's not a whole lot of... There's, like, no recoil. We're not going to mount or anything. The visual recoil is not bad. Sight picture's clear. Easy red dot. Look, we'll fire the whole mag. That's not bad for visual recoil compared to Warzone 1. You get a little bit of the gun smoke and the heat coming off the barrel, but that's not bad at all. The sight picture is good. Of course, optic is completely up to you. So that's going to be number 8. We're looking at number 7 now. It's the MTZ 556. I think this is better than MCW. It's definitely better than the SVA for sure. I think this is a meta contender here. And one of the main reasons is we get this 50 round drum, which we'll just start off with because I mentioned it's 20, 50, and then I think, yeah, the stock is 30. 50 is always a good number for ammo. So once again, we have the VT7 Spitfire suppressor for the same reason. We have the Bruin Heavy support under barrel for the same reason. And then we look at barrels. We go filtering. We want to go recoil control, damage, and range. There's 2 choices. The one that I chose and the other one here, which does not list recoil control as one of its benefits. It does give you slightly better bullet velocity, but it gives you less damage range, and it doesn't give you any of the recoil benefits. Hurts your movement less, but we're talking about the long range option here. So you end up with the MTZ Drifter Heavy Long Barrel for the barrel on the MTZ 556. Then, of course, the 50 round mag and your choice of optic. Once again, the Schlager 556. And this gun really is very visually clear. I'm just a bot. But, you know, go medium range here. It just kills too fast, too. And there's no aim assist on the dummies. But shoot it. Let me reload. And this is just another gun that's just a little bit of an S pattern, but nothing crazy, especially if you use aim assist. And once you get past the first little shape here, it just starts going vertical. Really not bad to control at all. And so that, I think, is going to be option number 7. Then we're looking at option number 6. We're starting to get into the SMGs here. I have the WSP Swarm. Crazy fast fire rate. Incredibly fast fire rate. And there is going to be 2 different loadouts we're going to talk about here. Sonic Suppressor, which you saw on the Striker 9 bullet velocity damage range for the same reasons. Once again, go Shadow Strike if you want no negatives. You just won't get any positives other than being off the minimap. Then we have the WSP Reckless 90 Long Barrel. It gives you the best bullet velocity and range and gun kick and recoil control combination of all of these barrels. Look, no bullet velocity or range, no bullet velocity or range, no recoil control, no bullet velocity range or recoil control. Recoil control and sprint to fire speed hurts bullet velocity and range, hurts bullet velocity and range. So you end up on the WSP Reckless 90 Long Barrel. Once again, we have the Cronin Intlast MSP12 optic with the built-in laser. Of course, you can drop that, go with the FSS OL EV laser or the VOK laser 7 milliwatt in this case. And then the XRK Edge BW4 hand stop. Now, the WSP does have more recoil than most SMGs, but this is going to be the barrel stuff, and this is why this is less important on the list, is because this is a barrel stuff SMG. But you could exchange that underbarrel because SMG's ADS fast with something like the Marauder grip, or you can go to a different underbarrel. I don't believe they have the Bruin Heavy on SMGs. They do have the Bruin Heavy, so you could go with the Bruin Heavy there, and you could also go with the Fortress Heavy stock. Helps your recoil control a decent amount. you look at it, it helps 14% horizontal. But we're building this purely for barrel stuff on this first build. If you look, the recoil is kind of really there. It's not terrible, but it's definitely more horizontal than other SMGs. And so this is a barrel stuff SMG. But if you don't want it to be quite so barrel stuffy, like I said, throw on the Marauder grip or the Fortress Heavy stock. I would probably go with the Marauder grip because it doesn't hurt movement, and the Fortress Heavy does. And we're just focused on horizontal recoil here. And you could go the MWIII Heavy underbarrel, of course. Now, the other build is going to be an akimbo build here. And with the akimbo, I'm going to switch from a 50 to a 100 round mag. Now, on that other build, you could put the 100 round mag on, but it hurts your mobility significantly. ADS speed, it takes a 21.5% penalty. Movement speed, 10%. Crouch movement speed, 9.5%. Sprint speed, 4.1%. And so that is an option. You got to make the choices on where you want to hurt yourself. And so it's tempting to do the 100 round drum on this because we have akimbo now. But now with akimbo, we're going to remove optic because we can't ADS. We're going to come over to these optics, and we are going to go with the, is it the AccuShot? No, I'm so out of my hipfire laser. It's the Point G3P04. It's between that and the hip shot. If you look at the hip shot, hip fire spread, 56.2%. Do you want the sprint to fire speed? Probably. I would go with the sprint fire speed, but the hip fire spread is better on the hip shot. So it depends on what you really want. I like being a little more aggressive. This is barrel stuff. You need good sprint to fire speed, and the spread's not gonna be that bad if you're barrel stuffing. And so I go with the Point G3P04, and the laser is visible at the hip, so you kind of got to decide. But those are your two laser options. We're gonna keep the barrel. We're gonna keep the suppressor. That leaves us with our 5 attachments there. Essentially, that's what you would do for the akimbo. You could drop the barrel, of course, especially because we are going with hipfire build, and so you don't need to be as long range. And if you drop the barrel, then you could come into these under barrels, and then I would recommend going with probably something like the MWIII grip is the barrel I would go with then if you were to drop the barrel, the under barrel with the MWIII grip. But I personally am more of a fan here. I'm not a big hipfire fan, especially because I'm on auto attack sprint and it does get hurt, but it does hurt it a little bit. So I'm actually more of a fan of this build myself. But either way, this is number 6. Number 5, we're going back to the long range. We're going with the Holger 26. Now this looks like the Holger AR, but this is in fact the LMG. You can see if I take off the mag, it goes up to 60 rounds. Now it's the Holger LMG that we remember from Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone 1. Now you can leave that 60 round mag on, and I like to go the 40 mag because it helps with mobility. It makes it really feel very much like an AR. But if you want, because 60 is a good amount, you could take the 60 off, and then I would probably go with the rear grip and do something like the gun kit control to really dial in no recoil because it doesn't have an ADS penalty. But 60 or 40, your choice. I like the 40 here. 40 is probably more for trios and below. Quads, you're probably going to go 60. Once again, we have the VT7 Spitfire suppressor for the suppressor and the MWIII Heavy support grip for the underbarrels. Then we go to the barrels themselves, and we go recoil control, recoil control. Don't want fire rate. We do want damage. We want range. One option that does all 3. So that becomes our default option there. That's the Holger factory barrel. Then, of course, optic is your choice. And like I said, I like the 40 round mag. There's another gun that's pretty low recoil in the firing range. I mean, it's right there. I'm a bot, and that was easy. And of course, like I said, you could remove the mag and go with this barrel. This grip here gives you benefits to all your recoil control and flinch resistance, which is nice when you're in a long range gunfight. And if you go to the firing range, this is even less recoil. It just doesn't move. I mean, look, I'll shoot the wall without me doing any kind of control. It's not bad. Just up and to the right mostly. That's not a bad recoil pattern at all. So you can go 60 round mag there. And the flexibility in the mag is one of the reasons why I have it ranked so high. Personally, I like 40 just for the extra mobility and all, because you're going to be competing with ARs. So that's number 5. Number 4 here is the CAT AMR. The Cat AMR is going to be the sniper of Warzone 2. The reports are snipers are back. Real one-shot sniping is back. No more BS explosive rounds. And so the Cat, it's super satisfying on the big maps in multiplayer. And I think it's going to really run Urzikstan in terms of sniping. I don't think the Modern Warfare 2 snipers will be as good as the Cat. Although, you know, we could see the other way. And this could be bad, and those could be great. But we look at the suppressors. We have the XRK Nightfall suppressor for the bullet velocity and damage range. When we go to filtering and we just look at damage and range, we're left with 3 options. Show details, damage range. It has the best damage range and the best bullet velocity, XRK Nightfall suppressor. When you're sniping, you're not worried about recoil control on a bolt action sniper. You're purely worried about that bullet velocity and damage range to make this thing as hit scan as possible. And if they don't give us full length one-shot snipers, that range is going to be really nice. Then we have the Zang 34 barrel. Helps damage range, bullet velocity. Like I said, that's what we're worried about. We're not worried about ADS speed, sprint to fire speed. We have our quick scoping long bow. Aim idle sway is nice to help, but we're not worried about recoil control or gun kick control as much as worried about damage range and bullet velocity. Then we have the FSS OLEV laser, because that helps with aim stability. The laser is visible in ADS, but it gives us... there's no aim stability stat on here, unfortunately, but it feels like it gives you the best aim stability overall. I wish they had more idle sway stuff. And then we come back to the bolt. This time we are going rechambering speed. The longbow, we weren't... like I said, you could argue it. But there's also just not really many attachments that I would choose. Unless you want to change the optic, then get rid of the bolt. The bolt's the most optional attachment here. Wouldn't go with the 7-round mag, although I missed my shot, so I can appreciate a 7-round mag. So you can drop the bolt for a magazine, a different optic. I wouldn't worry about stocks. Gun kick control, not worry about. Aiming, idle sway, and firing aim stability is a big deal. But we'll take care of that in a second. And then the underbarrels are bipods, which give you bipod mounts, and it's not worth ever using. And so then we're left with the grip here, which gives you aim, idle sway, and flinch resistance. And to me, flinch resistance from this grip, first of all, gives you 50% better flinch resistance, whereas the precision stock, which is what I would change if you didn't want the grip for some reason, doesn't give you flinch resistance. And then the grip down here does also give you really good aim, idle sway benefits. And if you go into the firing range here, you ADS... I mean, there's a little bit of sway, but that's nothing. Like, let me center on his head. Let's see, just outside of the head there. It swayed just a little away from the head, and then it's swaying back towards the head. You get about 50% of this movement stays on the head, maybe a little less, but the sway is not bad at all. Easy little headshot there. So that's going to be number 3. Number 4, sorry. Number 3 is going to be the Big Striker, which I think has the potential to be the best SMG in all of Warzone. And this is actually the last SMG on the list. We have the Sonic Suppressor, as we talked about before, with the other SMGs, bullet velocity, damage range. Could go Shadow Strike, no negatives. And then the XRK Edge BW4 hand stub for the same reasons as we discussed on the WSP Swarm. The Striker Recon Long Barrel, if you look, the Striker Elite Long Barrel gives you better recoil control and gun kick control while also helping bullet velocity and range. The Striker Recon Long Barrel gives you better bullet velocity and range. And the Stubby Barrel doesn't give you either of those or recoil control. And once again, we're not super worried about recoil control on SMGs, but when you look at the range, the damage range is better on the Long Barrel, and the bullet velocity is essentially the same. The recoil benefits for this Striker Barrel are fairly significant, but there's also more mobility penalties, a worse sprint to fire penalty, and worse accuracy penalties, which is hip fire and tac stance spread, which we're not going to use. Then there's a 60-round drum. You could go 48-round mag, and if you are in smaller modes like singles and solos and duos, you could probably get away with no mag and change for another attachment, but 48-round mag, if you're going to be in duos, maybe trios, quads, definitely the 60-round drum, and I just like always having the 60-round drum. Then once again, I have that same optic with the built-in laser, the Cronin Intlast MSP12. You could drop that for iron sights, and then I would go with the VLK laser 7 milliwatt. And that's how I would build this. You could drop this underbarrel for like rear grip, gives you better sprint to fire speed there. You could go with the stocks. where there's some movement ones. There's the no stock option. But this is going to be our overall, all-around best SMG in my mind. I don't want to go with the no stock because it's not a barrel stuff weapon. And I do think you could end up using it for sniper support. The recoil is non-existent with this build. Back. Okay. At range, I'm going to suck. But this recoil is pretty much non-existent. This is me not controlling anything. Pretty much vertical for all 60 bullets. See a little bit. It stays pretty much within a line. And I think this is a very good all-around option here. And even if you go... Oh, we're going to have to go into details. Damage range, 12 meters. Doesn't drop off to 12 meters. That's pretty normal for SMGs in Warzone. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 2 is going to be the Bass P. I don't want another battle rifle meta. Bass B, sorry. I don't want another battle rifle meta, but we could see it. Once again, VT7 Spitfire suppressor for the same reasons. Same thing with the Bruin heavy support grip. So we go to barrel, Bruin Venom long. We'll do our normal recoil control, damage, and range. We're left with one option. So that ends up being our default option. I love this filtering system, by the way. 45 round mag, that's our biggest available mag. The stock one's 20, so that definitely doesn't cut it. If you're in solos, throw in the 30. Do not rock the 20. And then, of course, your choice of optic, once again. If you really want to be ballsy and rock that 20, you can explore rear grips, which give you gun kick control. You can explore stocks, which they have the Ravage 20 is going to give you gun control, or recoil control and gun kick control. So you could mess around with that, but don't mess around with that. Just use the mag. Go to the firing range. The Bass B is probably the most recoil of any gun on this list, and it's not bad. Only 19 more bullets, but look, it's not bad. A little curvy, but it's nothing that we haven't had in Warzone. So I think this is a real meta contender. The 45 round mag thing could hurt it, but you know, we had the Cast-Off 7.62 with a 40 round mag. Then what came after that? It was like the Razorback has like a 40 round mag. The Geist has like a 40 round mag. So people are used to the 40 round mag metas. And so the first bonus weapon we have is in this loadout with the Renetti. Now, we don't want the regular Renetti. We don't want the burst Renetti, although there is a Kimbo. And all the pistols have a Kimbo, so any of these pistols are eligible to be meta. But what we're really focused on here is this aftermarket part, the Jack Ferocity Carbine Kit, which turns it into a pocket SMG. So we have the sonic suppressor as usual. Barrels are blocked. Lasers are blocked. Lasers aren't blocked. Once again, if you want iron sights, go with the FJX Diode 70. You'll get a little better aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. But I like that I can have an optic that also helps my aim down sight speed. So I like to rock that optic. Otherwise, drop it for the laser. And then we have a few other options. Of course, we have the 50 round mag. We go with the skeletal vertical grip here because it helps with sprint to fire speed, aim down sight speed, while also giving you some benefits to your recoil. It does hurt horizontal a little bit, which goes against our philosophy, but it helps ADS and sprint to fire. And overall, I'm not really a fan of a lot of the underbarrels on here. You could go with this stock. These stocks are exclusive to the aftermarket parts, and they help with recoil, but you'll see in a second that recoil is not bad. And rear grip, we can't put either of these two on. And gun kick control here, but the underbarrel helps with the sprint to fire speed, ADS speed, and we can't do trigger, and I'm not putting hollow points on it. We're going to the firing range really quick. This is really not bad for what it is. A little bit of vertical, a little bit of horizontal, but it's right there. And with it being a pistol and you not having to get overkill, but also being an SMG, this thing could easily fit its way into the non-overkill meta. And look, it's a little bit of an S-curve, but it stays mainly in the same spot. Aim assist will help you out. You'll be up close with it, and you don't have to grab overkill if you run this. So that's bonus. That's number 2 and bonus number 1. And then what I think is going to be the Warzone meta is the Holger 5.56, the Holger AR version. We're going to start with that, and then we'll talk about the other bonus gun here in a second. Holger, we got the VT7 Spitfire suppressor and the Bruin heavy support grip for the same reasons as before. Then we go to the barrels. We'll do our usual. We'll go to filtering, and we'll go recoil control, damage, and range. One option. So that's our barrel by default, and that's going to be the Cryos 6 match barrel. 40 round mag, it's the biggest mag. Where I could see these Bruins flipping is if they're very similar, and because of the 60 round mag on the Bruin LMG versus the 40 round mag here, and your choice of optic. Now, Of course, you could be a madman. You could drop this. If you're running solos, 30 is probably enough if you want to be a madman. And you could, of course, explore stocks, rear grips, all that. But this thing's very low recoil. It feels... It's the best AR right now in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. Very low recoil. I think it's going to be the meta. It's the best AR right now in multiplayer. Low recoil. Sounds like a perfect meta to start off the season. So this is your #1 meta contender. If you can only level up one gun, let it be the Holger 5.56. If you can level up two, go Holger 5.56 and Big Striker. So that way you have a full loadout kit. But also, if you don't want to go Striker, go WSP Stinger. This is the second bonus weapon here. This is a mini pocket Uzi pistol SMG thing. And once again, we got two loadouts like we did with the WSP Swarm. Because it's not an aftermarket part, you can just put a Kimbo on this because it's a pistol. But we'll touch that in a second. Once again, Sonic Suppressor for the same reason we had on SMGs. Then this light barrel, it helps with damage range, bullet velocity, and this is a pistol, so you definitely need it. The other ones don't help with that. You can't put an optic on this. So FJX Diode 70 laser, 32 round mag, that's the biggest mag. There's the stock options too, which help with recoil control. You could do that, and if you like tac stance, they give you tac stance, but they hurt ADS speed, sprint to fire speed, sprint speed, movement speed, whatever it is, they hurt them, so I didn't want to go stocks. And then you go WSP tac 20 grip for the tac stance spread, which I'm not going to use, but it gives you sprint to fire speed, and pistol fast draw means you draw it out a lot. It's that thing where like you switch your pistol and your AR goes to the side and then you bring up your pistol. That's the fast draw there. And there's just nothing else worth using in my mind over that. So now where we change the build here is you can go akimbo, of course. And with the akimbo, now we're going to want to look at hip fire. So we go all the way to the down. We go to this laser here, the 1 milliwatt pistol laser. Gives you -12. And once again, this is just like the laser we argued before. It gives you hip fire spread of -12, both min and max, whereas the min for the X10 sidearm L400 is -20, -10. But it gives you, the 1 milliwatt pistol laser gives you a 31 millisecond sprint to fire time and 11.4% benefit. And I think that's worth the laser being visible at the hip. And then we're pretty much going to keep the same. Everything else, we're just switching to the akimbo here. With the non-akimbo, this is what the recoil looks like. It's not terrible. Those iron sights are terrible. It's not the best. It's not terrible. I don't know why. Did I just miss completely and that's why I stopped getting hit markers? I mean, it's not terrible. You can hit stuff at mid-range. And the 32 mag is small, which is why akimbo is probably also going to be better for this. But then you switch to akimbo. Of course, I'm not going to be able to like hit downrange. I want them to actually stop moving. Stop moving. The recoil is a little bit tough on akimbo, but it is what it is. I mean, if you're, this would be a barrel stuff loadout, right? I mean, the akimbo recoil is all over the place. It's like up and to the left, but also just randomly jumps to the right because of accuracy. So, you know, this is another option. Akimbo being on every pistol is dangerous. But yeah, those are your 10 loadouts, or 10 guns that you should be focusing on leveling up, plus 2 bonuses, and the loadouts that I think are going to be the Warzone meta loadouts. Now, this is definitely a long video, but if you found value in it, if you stuck around, I really do appreciate you. And please don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, because once Warzone drops, we're going to be dropping the definitive meta, whether it's gun by gun, 10 loadout list like this. We're going to be dropping the meta, so hit that notification bell so you're early on the meta. Because I will be live when the new map and the update drops. My Twitch is linked down below. I'll be live as soon as my update's done downloading and install. If they don't do pre-install, if they do pre-install, I'll be live as soon as it goes live. And I'll be testing all this stuff out, plus anything else you want to see. And while you're scrolling down there, don't forget to comment. Let me know what you think of my loadouts. Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I smart? Am I dumb? Let me know down below. And also don't forget to click on the other social links. Hit that follow button. Interact with my other social medias. Always makes my day, whether it's comments, messages, reposts, likes, whatever it is. Always makes my day. But I will see you on Urzikstan before you know it. Get frying. Have a good day.